Well, hey everybody. This is my first live stream as a big YouTuber with over 100 subscribers. I've been working on trying to get a channel of some kind going for years, and I've finally almost 500 subscribers. For the last couple months, I've been pondering the idea of something like what used to be hosted on public access in America, where I live, PBS. There used to be like a tech channel that you could, or a tech episode, like in the mornings or in the evenings, where you could ask tech questions and call and ask tech questions. And there's something like that now on a few other YouTube channels, but I haven't at least seen them do video, and that's kind of important when you're trying to explain things to people. I've also seen them try to do call-ins, and while call-ins are great, I think most people are more comfortable with the text chat. Speaking of text chat, I have to make sure I can see my text chat, so that would be kind of important. Okay, yeah. Let me just pop text chat over there. Okay, so yeah, okay, so I can see that now. Say hey, everybody. Ask more questions. Alright, so you should see chat if you're on mobile as soon as you open the video. At least in portrait mode, up and down. Or on the left side if you're in landscape. And if you're on a computer, it'll be on your right hand side of your screen, which is over here for you guys. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and answer some questions that I haven't caught up on Reddit and my YouTube comments until I get live questions, and we'll see where that goes. So, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over, but first, check out this fancy new video intro. Hey, welcome to Bubble Tech. You have to have a decent amount of... It's so easy, anybody can use. Get a few comments. Somehow, flying one of these. You don't see it, obviously. And if you want to rewind or fascinating. Hey guys, I'm back. I better pop my face in here, huh? That'd be good. Let me go ahead and do that. Yeah, that works. But I should probably have that a little smaller. There we go. Hey. So here's some comments I haven't really gotten back to. And I thought, hey, let's just start it off this way. People are responding on my most popular video, which is how to download all your photos and videos from Google Photos. And I get a lot of comments on this one. And what kind of frustrates me is I feel like it's the worst video I've ever done. Not that my videos are of any specific high quality caliber. I am not a video editor by trade. I do tech stuff, consultations, sometimes sales, things like that. So, not that I think I'm that great at video editing. I actually think I'm terrible at video editing. But hopefully good enough to get the point across, even if it's not extremely interesting. I'm working on that, I promise. So, this person, I'm going to go ahead and respond to them from like a month ago. Hi. And yes, you can use the Google Takeout service to transfer your media from one Google account to another. Google Takeout is pretty much the only way to get all your stuff down, unless you were to download all your content after you're done using their services. But it's very finicky, and I kind of think that's intentional, because they can say, oh, we're not a walled garden, it's not like you can't get out and change services. Yeah, technically speaking, but either the files don't end up downloading, or the archive expires before you can actually download it, or the file format is something most people don't understand. So that's not very helpful. Alright, somebody said, hi, thanks for the video, but can you help me out? I want to download my Google Photos and videos to my Windows laptop, and then from there transfer them to my USB. Yeah, I'm going to respond to this guy. So there's that. I don't understand why some people actually like my content as much as they do, because it's not. I don't think I'm that great. But I do want to get to a point where people feel it's helpful, at least. I'm kind of a utilitarian. I like to help people in real life with real problems. Alright. Hitting puberty late, though. They say don't read the YouTube comments. Well, I have no choice. Alright, 2 weeks ago. So that person was asking about Google Photos Sync, which is a little application that runs in the background on your anything computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever. Actually, on Linux, I'm not sure there's an option for that. I use Linux, but I don't use Photo Sync. And it synchronizes your files for you. Although it's not just Photo Sync now, I think they just call it Google Sync. Alright, so now I'm going to go to my Reddit profile. And I'm going to show you guys some questions I've already answered for people, even when I'm not doing videos. In fact, especially when I'm not doing videos. I like just answering people in various technology subreddits. If you don't know what Reddit is, it's a forum board type website. And people can ask things, post memes, do jokes, whatever. Basically anything you'd want to ever discuss with anyone. There's G-rated to X-rated stuff on there, but you can sort through it pretty easily if you don't want to see one or the other. But yeah, there's tons of information on it. There's experts in all sorts of fields, and while I don't consider myself an expert, as Peppa Pig's father considers himself to be with computers, I do think I have enough knowledge to help people who aren't quite to the level that I'm at, and there's plenty of people on there who help me at the level that I am at and want to achieve, right? So, someone in the Linux Mint subreddit asked Lonnie for a fairly recent laptop run Mint, and they had a lot more detail in here, but it was gone now, I think. Oh no, there it is. We're saying I'm running Linux Mint 17 on a 7-8-year-old HP laptop. I'd like to get a more modern, faster laptop than the latest version of Linux Mint. In fact, I'm filling in their words here because they left out some detail. Will just about any decently priced modern laptop work okay? Any particular brands more reliable with Mint than others? Say in the $500-$700 range. I assume it's USD because they used the American dollar sign. I have 19.3 ready to go on both the USB and a CD. Thanks for reading any replies, etc. Lots of people responded, or enough anyway, and my response was ThinkPads are well known to not only be possibly the best hardware, but also extremely Linux compatible. They work with Canonical and Red Hat, the two largest Linux companies, to be Linux certified. And I mentioned I manage the buyer's guide for our ThinkPad, which is the ThinkPad subreddit or subforum on my website. And I also mentioned on there, don't let the name throw you off. Resources for buying new direct from Lenovo, also on that page. Have fun. So I'm gonna just show you guys my website here real quick if you guys haven't seen it. This isn't like I don't know how to put it. I feel like there's a lot of YouTubers who are out there and they're like, hey, look at this, go to my website, sign up for this thing, sign up for this thing, I'll give out free stuff. I never want to be like that. I'm sorry if I ever do become like that. I'm not like I'm making any money off this channel. I'm not at all. I don't even get any advertising revenue until I think you get like 1,000 subs. But, let's see here. Analytics. Let's see. But my website actually does have really good information that most people don't know about, which is interesting. Yeah, so let me go and turn off dark mode on my website so you can see like you would see it. It's bubble.tech, and the website, I'll make it bigger here for you, is right below my head, right there, bubble.tech. And it's got just a ton of stuff, to be honest. I'm going to go to the main page of my website here. So I have a privacy guide here. I have the ThinkPads buying guide. I have a free stuff guide, which is just a ton of free stuff. And I don't ask for emails or anything like that. None of that nonsense. I'm not on that. I'm not going to do that. That's not right. That's not going to happen. And the ThinkPads buyer's guide is actually my biggest thing. I get something like, I don't know, 2,000 or somewhere upwards of 2K visits on my website per month. So while my YouTube channel doesn't have that many subscribers, my Reddit handle and my website are actually really more well known. Mostly because of this. So this guide is how to basically get a laptop for nearly free. If you have like $200 to spend, which isn't nothing, but it is nothing in the grand scheme of laptop buying if you want a good one. Now anybody can go to Walmart and get an HP Streambook or something along those lines, or a Chromebook. But when you get it home, you're going to be pretty much immediately disappointed because the screen is terrible. You install one application, everything's full. You try to update Windows, and it fails, or you just have all sorts of issues with it. It's slow. Chromebooks, you'll fare a little bit better unless you have problems with Google spying on you, which, because it's a Google product, is always spying on you. Yeah, so those aren't great options. ThinkPads, on the other hand, are arguably, although I don't think there's really many alternatives that come anywhere close to what you can get with ThinkPads besides Dell Latitudes and HP EliteBooks. But I still like ThinkPads better because of the keyboard and the build quality and design. ThinkPads are an amazing deal for a couple reasons. For one, they're business grade laptops. That means they're going to last a really long time. Even if they're like 5 years old, they're probably better than a brand new computer that you can get for twice the price when you're buying it used. And on top of that, they're going to keep getting updates longer. They're going to be more durable. Like, I mean, people run over these things with trucks. There's this other YouTuber, AA Computers and Technology. This kid pours water on every new ThinkPad he gets. And he'll spend $700-$800 on these things. He says, hey, look, I pour water on it because they have drainage holes and the water will go right through. And that's something Lenovo does advertise but not recommend, right? So these things are super durable. And when they're new, they're actually up there with MacBook Pro pricing. And there's a reason for that, because the hardware is of similar quality. A lot of people compare Macs and Windows computers, and that's not really a fair thing, because every brand has its own little bracket of what market they're going for. People who are super cheap, people who want tons of quality and super durable stuff, and each brand has sub-brands, right? Like Lenovo owns ThinkPad, but I wouldn't recommend a Lenovo computer. I'd only recommend ThinkPads. And the reason why is they're high-end, especially the T, P, and X series. But anyway, that's what my buyer's guide is about. You can get a laptop for under $200, sometimes under $100. I got my dad's for like $60, I think, and I got a little SSD and a power cord, plugged it in, boom. And my dad's been using that laptop for like 2 or 3 years. And it was already 5 or 6 years old when he got it, something like that. So, yeah, ThinkPads are awesome. And my buyer's guide on Baul.tech tells you all about that. I do not ask anybody for their email addresses. I mean, you literally just go to my website, click ThinkPads, and you're in. I'm not holding anybody back from this. What's also great is ThinkPads don't... They don't limit you to Windows. If you want to try something that's kind of like macOS on there, people have Hackintosh them. I don't recommend that for legal reasons and just issues. But Linux is almost perfectly compatible with almost every ThinkPad. So you have that option as well. Oh, I see somebody I know asking me comments here. Yay, one of my 2 viewers is somebody I know. What about an iPad Pro for a laptop? Well, Noah. And you can check out his channel here. I know this guy. He's kind of cool once in a while. I think it's... Oh, there it is. NoahPenceMusic.com. Yeah, this guy does good music. He's an indie artist, and his music videos are awesome. I actually have asked him to help me do some intros in the past, and we're still working that out. But yes, to answer your question, an iPad Pro for a laptop is an excellent choice if you're a student who wants to take notes. They're fantastic options. I do recommend getting a case, because these things are mostly screen, right? They're mostly glass. Whereas when you close a traditional laptop, you're protecting the screen right there. But traditional laptops, especially not MacBooks and ThinkPads, are not all metal, right? So when you drop these things, it's going to reverberate through the metal, the vibration, and you could break the glass without even denting that chassis, that aluminum or steel chassis. Whereas if you're dropping something like a ThinkPad, it's kind of going to bounce. It might crack, but the screen's not going to crack. So iPad Pros are fantastic, especially for note-taking, any kind of drawing and lectures, anything for math. There's apps out there. I think there's one called Notability that does handwriting recognition, so you can just put your notes and file them away. And if you get your school curriculum and books from certain sources, you can have all your books and notes all in one device. And while that device can be expensive, somebody I know got the iPad Pro, like this person was asking, and it was upwards of $1,000. There are educator discounts. Definitely look out for those. The iPad Pros and all Apple products. Pretty much the only discounts you can ever get are for like education discounts, and that's actually how Apple got where it is today, primarily infiltrating the education sector by offering their computers for cheap. And coincidentally, they're now competing with Google in that space for Chromebooks, etc. But yes, direct answer to your question, iPad Pro is fantastic as a laptop for almost everyone. Now, the only exceptions to this I would consider are people who don't have a lot of money, for one. Although, if you can't spend around $400 for a laptop, unless you're going with a used ThinkPad, you're not really getting a ThinkPad worth anything. And the lowest end iPad is $325, I believe. Pair that with a good case from Amazon and cheap Bluetooth keyboard that's maybe part of the case, and you have a fantastic laptop that's going to last you probably a good 5-6 years. So those are excellent. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and you're like, hey, I have zero monies, and maybe if I ask my grandma, she'll give me $150 and I can get a laptop, which ironically was pretty much my situation when I got this ThinkPad. Right here. My friend JD actually bought this for me when I was in a bad place financially. And this computer, I think when he got it, it was around $250, and I think that was about 2 years ago. And it's from 2014, but it was a very high-end laptop. It's an i7 with 8 gigs of RAM and an SSD. I added the $80 IPS screen afterwards, so it was a really high-quality screen. And I changed the trackpad out, which was like $20, because there's a lot of modular parts in a ThinkPad. Yeah, so this thing is awesome. And you could get this today for either under $200 or maybe around $100, depending on the specs it has. But this was high-end when it came out. This was like a solid K when it came out. That's a ThinkPad X240. And it still holds up today. I could do everything that I need to do on a computer on that laptop, no problem. Everything I want to do, probably not. I like to play Modern Warfare, for instance, and I'm thinking about doing like a game live stream later. I don't know how well that's going to work. So that's my chores to do today. But yeah, let's go back to the questions on Reddit now that I've answered that. Alrighty. Okay. I had somebody asking about Kali Linux here, which is... I'm always hesitant when people ask about Kali Linux. And most nerds who actually know their stuff are. Because they have a bunch of kids wanting to be hackers. And Kali is primarily a tool, not an operating system just play around with like Windows, but is primarily a software tool that you pair with hardware tools like high-gain Wi-Fi antennas. And you use it in your ethical hacking job. And I believe Kali has on their website a way to become a certified ethical hacker or a pen tester. The problem is when most people ask about Kali and they don't know what they're doing. They're just kids and they're like, hey, I want to hack things. This is a very, very bad thing. Unauthorized access to computers is a federal offense. That's very, very bad. You could end up in jail for a very long time. And I've heard of people who have just been trying, and they've been certified ethical hackers, and they've been like pointing out to people, hey, you might want to more secure this. I found this hole here. I didn't exploit it for my own personal gain. I just want you to hear about it. I think Apple did this to somebody. This guy's like, hey, look, Apple, here's this thing. You might want to fix it. And they tried to get him in jail, and I think they were successful. And that's really unfortunate. Other companies are more reasonable and intelligent about this kind of thing, and they're like, oh yeah, here's a bug bounty, or here's a ton of money for finding that and saving us a huge security fallout in the future. So yeah, Apple's weird about that, Sony's weird about that, lots of people are weird about that, so you don't want to just go around doing that kind of thing. Now, you have to know the company that you're working with, and I would just come off on the bat and say, don't do it unless you're being hired by that company to do penetration testing for them, which is basically testing their security defenses to prevent any PR issues in the future. So this person was asking about, information on Kali, how to use it, and I said their website has a lot more information, which it does. It has a lot of information. Now this person was asking how to update the video editor Kdenlive on the Linux Mint operating system. And this is a really, really common question for new Linux users. Not just this particular piece of software on how to update it, but how to update software on Linux at all. And the reason people ask these kind of things so often is because every distro handles updating a little bit. Every operating system handles updates a little bit differently. Linux is kind of weird. It is arguably superior in some ways from a technical perspective, but for the end user it can be a pain unless you just get over that one little hump that's like, how do I do this? So the short version is there's a lot of different ways to get software on almost every operating system except for iOS and iPadOS. There you basically can only do the Apple App Store or the Alt Store, but if you don't know what the Alt Store is already, so on Linux, by default, all of your applications installed normally through the Linux App Store update at the same time. Your operating system updates at the same time, your software updates at the same time. When you get an update for software, you don't have to go download it. You don't have to do anything. It just updates. The problem is those updates are limited to the developers of that particular Linux operating system, that Linux spin, right? Remix, whatever you call it. So it depends on when those developers actually are going to release updates for that. Now, because some software applications depend on dependencies or other pieces of software to function, it's up to the developers of the operating system to say, hey, we're going to update this piece of software, and then we can update, like, OBS Studio, for instance, which I'm using to host this live stream. The problem with that is, it basically makes updating not a chore. You can totally automate and nothing bad's likely going to happen on Debian-based distros like Ubuntu, Mint, or Pop. The problem is, they typically hold back any feature updates and do only security updates until, I think it's every 6 months, something like that. Or every 12 months. Somewhere around there. So you won't get any major updates until your operating system does a major update. And then, unless a security update or a browser. Browsers are like the big exception because almost all security holes and features come through the browser anyway. Now, Linux recently has rectified this with something called universal app packages, and it's as a side effect of these apps being universal. You can just release one app package for all Linux operating systems at once, effectively. The side effect is those pieces of software don't depend on any other packages to be updated. So you can install one of these universal app packages. They're called app images, snaps, or flatpaks. There are 3 separate types of ways of doing it, but you're going to have one in your app store anyway, so you just have to look for one that says snap package or flatpak. App images you download directly from sites like Windows applications, or actually it's a lot closer to macOS and DMG applications. Because you have to put those in like an app folder. But those you can just download, and they're always going to be the latest version as long as the developer is caught up with that by that one developer themselves. So basically, as soon as an app is released, with one of those universal packages are going to have it. So for the case of Kdenlive, I said get the app image from their site. Let's see. Trying to find one that. Someone was mentioning after changing from Windows to Linux, their eyes have been hurting, which I've heard too. And this can be caused by a few things. One, your eyes are used to seeing whatever operating system you're used to. So I've kind of trained it to be used to the way that fonts render on Windows. By just changing fonts or changing some display settings, this can be rectified, and it's actually one of the reasons I use GNOME-based Linux distributions like Cinnamon, ButGD, desktop environments, or GNOME, or Mate, or Mate, and XFCE, GTK-based desktop environments, I should say, because they handle this really, really well. KDE should, on paper, KDE Plasma should be the best Linux DE, hands down. And I kind of oscillate between which one's the best, but truth be told, out of the box, the Cinnamon desktop environment is hands down my favorite. It is just perfectly configured out of the box. It has an easy, everything's easy, especially for a Windows user. You start it up and it's like, hey, in so many words, do you want it to look like Windows XP or Windows 7? Or Windows 10, and that's right out of the box. And once you choose which option you want for your taskbar, your icon taskbars, or like the text taskbars that are more narrow, like XP, I mean, you're ready to go. You're ready to rock. You have Office software on there. You have Firefox on there. You have an amazing file explorer. You open the App Center, it's like, hey, do you want to install Spotify and Steam and OBS and Discord and Signal, GIMP and Shotcut and whatever. It's all right there. There is no other operating system that can boast like that, like Linux and Cinnamon can. It just works out of the box really, really well. Okie dokie. Let's see what else we're doing. Okay, so on this one, somebody was asking, can someone confirm a specific Lenovo ThinkPad model works completely and perfectly with Linux? So I'm not going to expand that because that would just be useless. But I may have responded with, I would recommend searching the internet for the model and Linux. And I did, and I found things like this. And I found like one issue that Linux didn't work with that like relatively cheap low-end ThinkPad. It's unfortunate that Lenovo kind of adulterated the ThinkPad name by offering an E series, an Edge series, because it otherwise, you could just say, hey, get a ThinkPad, and pretty much everybody would be happy with that, unless they were used to, like, iMovie Final Cut, or they were deep into the Apple ecosystem. And I don't know if I want to cover this here, but I'm going to cover it. Someone was mentioning they were having issues dual booting Linux and Windows on one computer to have two different operating systems on one. I really highly recommend against this, unless you have two separate storage drives, not partitions, drives, different physical devices to put Linux and Windows on, for a number of reasons. Whether it's just expansion in the future, but primarily because Windows is known to cause issues with the bootloader on Linux, and vice versa when they update. This is less of a problem now with, I think it's System Deboot with Pop! OS, or EFI, bootloader stuff. That's supposedly less of an issue, but it can still be a problem. Like my ThinkPad exclusively, wherever it is, my ThinkPad exclusively runs Linux. My desktop has like 5 drives in it right now, and 3 of those are storage drives, and 1 is for Windows, 1 is for Linux. When my computer boots up, I choose the BIOS bootloader option, F11, and then I just go into Windows or Linux. It boots Linux by default because that's where I get stuff done, and I see Windows as a glorified game console. It's an Xbox. Yeah, so that's why I would recommend doing that. Don't do it unless you have certain drives. Now, I mentioned the Apple ecosystem in there at some point, and I'll just blow this up here. Boop. Hi, I'm back. Nobody's really watching the stream at the moment, but it'll be archived and people say later. But I want to talk about the Apple ecosystem for a minute. But first, I'm going to go on a short break.